Your website might look beautiful. It might have the perfect colors, speak to your ideal client, give you the warm fuzzies about how you designed it. But if it's broken on the inside, if Google can't find it, if AI can't pick it up, then it's broken. It's not actually working. And here's the problem. As psychologists and therapy entrepreneurs, we usually can't tell. That's what this episode is all about. How to figure out, is your SEO on fire? And how to know in less than 5 minutes. Let's talk for a minute about why it's important to have a website that's not just a pretty face. I listen to a lot of podcasts in the therapy space, and one thing we talk about a lot is the human-facing component of our websites. We talk about the psychology of websites. We talk about writing to your ideal audience so that they can understand you, so that they can realize that you are the right fit for them. We want to make it human. We want to connect. That is a huge focus of how we design our websites. However, we're designing our websites for 2 other things as well. Not only does your website have to be attractive to humans, it also has to be attractive to Google, and it also has to be attractive to robots, which is kind of funny. I mean, the good thing is that if your website has good SEO, which means that when you type in a search term, people find your website. If it's attractive to Google, it's usually also attractive to robots, to AEO. But it's really hard for us to know because all we can see is the front end. And that means that we often ignore the back end of our websites. I also think the reason that we ignore the back end of our websites is because we're kind of scared of them. I'm not a tech savvy person. I have always felt intimidated when I've gone back into Google Analytics or Google Console and tried to look at my numbers. Like I tried to look at them, but I didn't really understand what I was looking at. So I would just outsource. And I feel like that's what many of us do. We say, okay, I know this has to be SEO optimized. Maybe we even realize that it needs to be AEO optimized, meaning that if somebody asked Gemini, who is the best child psychologist in Houston, Texas for ADHD, hopefully Gemini populates some response talking about Thriving Child Center and why we're such an amazing clinic. So I might even be aware that it has to do that, but I don't know how to make my website do those things other than fixing the client-facing part. And so I just kind of, I'm going to ignore the other part. I'm going to let an expert handle it. However, I don't know how to check up on my expert. And that's something that many of us run into. If you talk to therapist entrepreneurs, most of us will tell you a horror story about somebody saying that they're managing our SEO and either not managing it or managing it and doing a terrible job. And it often takes a really long time for us to be able to find out. They just say, yeah, I'm updating it. When we say, please optimize my SEO, not knowing what that actually means. Like, what does that actually look like? And then they say, yes, it has been optimized. And you think, job done. I've done it. But if you ask, like, is your SEO actually good? Most of us can't answer that question. It's too complicated on the back end. We don't have a good translator to tell us if things are running how we should. But right now, I was forced to confront the fact that my SEO was on fire. And the reason why I found out is because we stopped getting as many matching calls. At first, I thought it was a fluke, but then our matching calls just kept getting lower and lower and lower. I'm like, why is nobody finding us? I've been building this website for 10 years. Why is it that all of a sudden it's like I'm invisible? Well, if your SEO is bad, it turns out you kind of are invisible. And the way that I first clocked that might be the problem is when I was told that my domain authority was really low. So domain authority is how much Google trusts that your website is legit. It doesn't really matter if you personally are legit if Google can't read that your website is. And a good domain authority is 50. That's the highest you can be. And my domain authority was so incredibly low. And what this meant is that Google was just passing over us. Like we were just not a source they were even drawing from. And I was walking around thinking that, sure, my domain authority is excellent. I just assumed that everything was fine. But then you could start to see the real life repercussions of that happening. So other than panicking, I designed a tool. I jumped in with AI. I'm like, Claude can interpret my website. And what I basically learned how to do was to create a prompt that would let Claude audit my website for SEO and AEO. And if you put in this prompt, you will get a clear result in less than 5 minutes. So don't panic. I'm not going to tell you out loud the AI prompt because that's incredibly boring. But I do have a freebie that you can download straight from the show notes where it lays out the exact prompt. And all you do is you take the prompt and you copy and paste your URL, your website, and you put it into Claude. And it asks Claude to basically grade your website, to tell you how it's doing overall, to go through every single page and give it an actual letter grade as if you were in school, and to let you know whether or not your SEO specialist and expert is doing their job pretty directly. And this is basically how you find out if your SEO is on fire. So when you put all of this information in, you're either going to learn some wonderful things about your website. You're going to get a lot of A's, maybe a few B's, maybe a couple suggestions. And you're like, yes, my website is fantastic. And it's free. You can also get a free account through something called SEMrush, SEMrush. And you can put in your URL into that and it will tell you your domain authority score. So already you know so much about how your AI is performing. So if you hear that it's all beautiful and you think, okay, I'm going to send cookies to my SEO expert, they are killing it. I am so happy with them. You're done. But if you learn that your SEO is smoking, that it's potentially on fire, then you maybe want to go in the back end and figure out how bad it really is. On this freebie, there are prompts for how to log into Google Console, which is the back end of all of this, and what exactly Claude needs you to copy and paste in so it can tell you where the problems really lie. And that part's uncomfortable because what will you find? Will you find lots of broken links? Are you going to find out that you've worked so hard on some pages and they've never even been indexed? So Google has never ever looked at them, has never crawled them. What are you going to find in there? But what you will find by the end, so at the end of what is now probably a 30-minute process, maybe 40 minutes if you've never had Google Console before and you have to pull it up for the first time. But what you're going to know truly is how good is your SEO and how good is the SEO person who's in charge of it, and how is AEO. Because who can know what robots want more than other robots? I'm not a tech-savvy person. I don't like technology. I don't even like switching computers. I don't like upgrading my iPhone. I want to run from this kind of stuff. But this tool is so easy that even I was able to create it and use it. So if I can create it and use it, you can too. And my new goal is to run my SEO using this tool, using Claude every single month. I want to see how is it doing, and I want to make sure that it's improving. I'm also even planning on saving the last report and putting it in with the new report so I can make sure that the right progress is happening. Because that's another tricky thing when you hire someone to do your SEO. They say things like, it's a long game and it will take months for you to see results. And so you're looking for results in your client load, and it's really hard for you to see decent results on the back end. But this is where we now have information. We now have an interpreter who is unbiased and who reports to us for free immediately. And that's why I'm so excited to have this tool. I think the tool is worth it. I'm pretty excited and happy about it. And I'm excited for us to be in a position where we can operate as actual CEOs with the right information, with the right statistics, so that we are not at the mercy of people who might know more than we do in some areas. Now, I should give you disclaimers. Will this tool work forever? I don't know. Who knows what's going on with AI? Will this tool work for you perfectly? I don't know. right? Like, I'm not an SEO expert, but I think it's working pretty well right now, and it's free. So feel free to download it and give it a real try and let me know what you think about it. You can email me, you can go into the YouTube video and you can post comments. I'm so excited to hear what it was like for you to use it. All right, I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope this episode was worth it and that my Is Your SEO on Fire tool is worth it too. Take care.